All right. Hey guys, as you know in this group, you know that I love looking at chart patterns. In fact, if ever you guys are interested, a book that I love is this book right here. I think the author is Thomas Bulkowski. So great book if you enjoy looking at patterns. And I wanted to make this quick video considering what's happening with Bitcoin price right now and how it's just dramatically dropping, scaring the heck out of everyone. Rightfully so. I mean, it's a scary time. But one of the things that I almost noticed was a pretty famous chart pattern reversal type of pattern, which is called a pipe bottom. And I kind of wanted to show it to you so you can kind of see it and maybe you'll be able to spot it when it happens. It almost happened right now. I am watching closely now to see what's going to happen with the Bitcoin price, just to see if this kind of is the pattern, but you need confirmation of this pattern. And I want to kind of show you. So the first thing you want to do is, for this pattern to work, you need to look at it on a weekly basis. You can't look at it on a daily basis. That's just too little of a data to see and really get this pattern correct. But let me show you Bitcoin price. Now, this is when COVID came into existence, and if you can see here, the nice thing is if you look at it on a weekly chart, you can really very quickly spot it. So let's take Bitcoin and put it on a 5-year weekly chart. And right off the bat, what jumps out at you? What kind of patterns can you see that jump out at you right now? Look at right here. See this area right here? It automatically jumps out at you as far as it looks like a weed growing. Something drops and then goes back up. And that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for, ideally, you're looking for a drop down, and then on the next week, a recovery back up. And if you notice here as well, you can clearly see volume increased dramatically in this drop down. Okay, now, and look what happened over the next weeks, months. As you can see, Bitcoin recovered in the price, and then it just took a little bit longer. And then here is when you get a nice confirmation, and this is what you're kind of looking for. So if you go on this week, you can see at this week it opened up at 8,000. Look up here, 8,057. And then the high was around 8,200, and it dropped all the way down to 3,948. Okay, that's a big drop. So, hold on, I've got these two dogs here. So what you're really looking for to see if you've got a confirmation of a pipe bottom is this. You want to see an increase in volume, and then you want to see another. They're basically two lines that look, identical to each other almost. One's coming down heavy, one's. Now, ideally, this should be the amount from the high to the low on both of these, vertical lines should be a lot closer to each other, which would be ideal. But this still worked. Now, what you're looking for, like I said, is if you see the high here is 8,200, to really get a confirmation that this was a bottom and a reversal is in play, you kind of keep wanting to go to the right, to the right, to the right, until the price actually closes higher than the highest point of these two pipes. Okay, so we're looking for when it closes above 8,200, and I believe that's right here. So here is when it actually closed above 8,200. That right there was basically your buy signal. that now is a time to possibly get back into Bitcoin. And let's, once you see that it's closed above these two pipes, that kind of gives you a confirmation. So as we go further to the right, now you can start to see obviously what happened. The price just kind of stayed stable, increasing, and then boom, it just kind of, skyrocketed up to here, up to 64,000, or however high it got. Now, I'm looking at this on a logarithmic chart, just to kind of show you how it looks different in an arithmetic chart. It's not as easy to see, to spot. See that over here? It's not as easy to spot when you're looking at it on an arithmetic chart. You kind of want to look at this on a logarithmic chart. You see the variance a lot easier. Now, why this kind of interested in me here is because let's go to our price drop that just happened. Now here we had a pretty drastic price drop here from 34 to 25. Volume also increased. But then here is a more dramatic one. Okay? Now here's ideally what I was looking for. I was hoping that this week, this line, vertical line, would closer match this one. See, this one had a high of 26 down to a low of 17. This one's only had a high of 21 and 19. This is not what we were looking for. So, I'm afraid to say, but according to chart patterns, again, if I'd seen this line here also be kind of, ideally the statistic, apparently in the book after studying all these, the high and low of this pipe on this week should have been at least 60% of what this was. And that kind of gives you a nice pipe bottom. We haven't seen that, as you can see. What this tells me is we're in for a little bit more of a price drop, which is disheartening to see. But, you never know. These patterns, though they're very common, they sometimes aren't, foolproof. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about again, I know in the group we've talked about this before, like this 22,000 mark was kind of this mark that, one of the members in the group was talking about, and he's correct. And here's some of the things that we need to pay attention to. Here is the previous high that Bitcoin made in 2017. This is the heyday. This was like 19,000. What was the height? The high was 19,870. Okay, and then it kind of gave away some of those gains, but then it tried to go back up to it. It didn't quite make it. The highest it got was 13.8, or no? The highest it got was 13.8. Okay? So a common thing that we see in patterns and human psychology is a previous high tends to become resistance, and it also tends to become support for the chart. For example, psychology-wise, there's a lot of people who rode this up all the way to 19,000 and then sold. And then those people who were trying to maybe make the same amount of money, again, rode up, a little bit. Obviously, they didn't get all the way up to 19,000 because they ended up selling again. And then typically what happens is if you're looking at the chart, like if I take my thing here, you can see this is a resistance, and you see it testing it again here, but it didn't make it. It didn't pop through. However, it did pop through here. And let's take a look. And we should ideally see an increase in volume. So here's high at 18.9, 19.4, 19.9. So that was the height where it broke through the previous high. And as you can tell, ideally what we would love to have seen is big volume increase here, but there wasn't really that much huge volume. But in this down day, there was an increase in volume. But as you can see, once it went past that 19.9 figure, that's when Bitcoin just kind of took off. Okay? Now, why this is important is these two peaks here, this one and this one, are kind of, they should act as support. Okay? Now, this height of 19,870 unfortunately was broken right here because it went down to 17.6, but it seems to have not like completely crashed through. It seems to be kind of sticking around. Ideally, we want to see it stay around this mark now and consolidate here for a little while and get enough energy to go back up. Now, one thing you can also notice here is this. If you look at this RSI, if you look at the MACD, if you look at the stochastics, we are in a very, very oversold position of Bitcoin. It should have a pop. It should kind of go up. You can see in all these, look over here, you can see oversold, and then it went up, and then the price went up. Oversold, and it was trying to go up, okay? But I think we're in a little bit of a different environment right now. We are now, all this history of Bitcoin thus far has been an environment where there's been a lot of free money, easy money, credit was easy. You could easily go get a home equity loan, interest rates were low, so on and so forth. That type of environment makes it very easy for people to spend money on risky things. And I think we would all agree that Bitcoin is a little risky. It's extremely volatile, especially if you look at it on a arithmetic scale. I mean, look at this thing. But, let's look at Amazon. It's not like Amazon didn't have any volatility. It went up, came down, went back up, and now it's, crashing. Microsoft. All these big names have had volatility. Well, Microsoft, this one looks like a pretty solid company. Hasn't done much. It just looks like Tesla. Look at the volatility in Tesla. Okay? So, volatility isn't necessarily a bad thing. It does give you opportunities to buy if you know what you're buying. Now, on an arithmetic scale, it's scary looking. It is. But if this right here should ideally provide some support, and we are right there. So, on a chart pattern, we are in an area where we should have some support. I think it's just time to really closely watch this. My opinion is this. If Bitcoin drops below this low on this pipe bottom, 17.6, then who knows where it's going. Then it could easily, then at that point in time, it's kind of broke through and sliced through these supports. Then the next thing would be somewhere around here, which puts it down to that 3,500 mark again. It's ugly. Could happen. Heck, I mean, it could go sub 1,000 if it starts to break this support. So, I know this isn't the best news, but looking at these chart patterns definitely helps. And you know, it's important to pay attention to these things. Can't just blindly invest in stuff. So I just thought I'd share this with you. From, again, I've been buying and selling options for years and years, and chart patterns are some things that I really look at, because ultimately chart patterns basically are disclosing human psychology, and that's really what it is that we're seeing on a chart here. So, you know, let me just see something quickly. Let's see the S&P 500. I mean, ideally with S&P 500, here's a previous high of 3,400. That should give support. Okay, so expect S&P. Now, as you can see here, look at the 200-day moving average. The black line seems to have jumped off that nicely. That's a good sign. That's a really good sign. But unfortunately, Bitcoin just sliced through it, didn't it? Which is not a good sign. See that? See how it did not bounce off this black line and it just sliced through? Yeah, that's not a good sign. Let's look at Tesla. Okay, see how Tesla seems to kind of have found a little support here at this 200-day moving average? Amazon sliced right through it. And look, once it slices through, look, it tried to go back up, and then it became resistance, and it had trouble broaching it and punching through, and then it dropped back down. Very common. You see this. Now, Netflix is probably on everyone's mind because it just completely sliced through that. Like, look at that. Again, sliced through the 200-day moving average, tried to go back up, didn't work. Tried to kind of go back up again here, didn't work, and then boom, dropped again like a tank. So once you start to see these things, you start to notice stuff. You start to notice these patterns. So given this, we are now going to see for sure Bitcoin is going to probably try and test this 200-day moving average again, which is roughly around, what, 26,000, 27,000. If it punches through, and punches through with high volume, it's going to be a great sign. If it tries to get up there and has trouble and starts to drop back down, it's not a good sign. So, you know, things to pay attention to. Here's a nice chart. This is a Binance chart, okay? And look at how all of a sudden this fell to the 200-day moving average and bounced back up again. There's a big difference between what Bitcoin did and what Binance did, okay? So you can kind of see that the support held a little bit there. How about Ethereum? See, Ethereum just dropped right through again. So anyway, just thought I'd share that with you guys. We're in a very important chart cycle here, where we're right around what a lot of people in the industry think is support for Bitcoin, right around this mark right here. And we're there, we're testing it. So if we keep going down lower than this, who knows how low it's going to go. But if we stick through the support and kind of bounce off of it, should be good signs for us. All right, so just thought I'd share that with you guys.